The wonder of flight unfolds for people with special needs in KOTA Territory. There was a different twist at the latest Rapid City protest against the Trump administration, and it involved dogs. And a Southern Hills town that owes its life to the railroad might have to do without. Your news starts now.
From Skyline Drive, this is KOTA Territory News at 5:30.
Good evening, I'm Jack Cottle. Edgemont has formed a committee to prepare for the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad, possibly ending stops in town. KOTA Territory's Blake Trolley has more.
Absolutely is a railroad town. It was founded because of the railroad.
Leadership in the city of Edgemont is quite literally on edge. Mayor Retta Regan says while there hasn't been any confirmation, word began circulating in her town late last year that the BNSF rail service would discontinue stops along its coal route in Edgemont.
Just rumors in a small town. And you can imagine how fast they went.
A total of 27 rail employees from Edgemont would be affected, according to Regan, and a total of 100 who live in the entire Black Hills. Those employees would have to move closer to Alliance, Nebraska to get on trains or choose to drive to Alliance. Edgemont held a hearing on Monday where a committee was formed to determine the city's economic path forward should the stops discontinue, a move that Regan says would deliver a blow to tax revenues.
The crews in Alliance now stop here. They utilize our hotels. They utilize our grocery stores.
BNSF says it has initiated discussions with local employees and union reps from Edgemont about operational changes necessary to remain a competitive transportation provider on coal routes. The rail service says shifts and market demand require that it adjust operations accordingly. While the rail service has yet to announce a finalized move, the uncertainty continues after President Trump signed an executive order aimed at bolstering coal production.
It's very strange because when I heard that he had wants to strengthen back our coal, that they were wanting to. They're thinking that coal is going to go away.
That executive order was welcome news for Regan.
It kind of was a plus for our little town, knowing that our railroaders would still be hauling coal.
But now uncertainty remains. The BNSF says additional meetings are set to continue exploring options. Blake Trolley, KOTA Territory News.
Meteorologist Ryan Hill joins us from the First Alert Weather Center with the forecast. We had a little isolated shower and storm activity in the Northern Hills. So Ryan, where are things going with that and what is up here for the next 24 hours?
Yeah, we're going to continue to see these little popcorn, little mini isolated bursts of showers and thunderstorms, mainly confined to the hills and to the Bighorns. Meanwhile, the other thing we want to talk about is how warm it got relative to yesterday. It's actually 67 downtown, as I was just checking, just 1 degree warmer than what I'd forecasted yesterday. But there's your temperature at the airport, east at 10 miles an hour. The winds are funneling in some warm air and maybe a little moisture for this little thunderstorm complex that burst right up near Spearfish. So that is exactly what we were expecting right now at this time, and it's bringing some pretty decent rain. We're talking about 1/4 to 1/2 inch in the areas where it's affecting. So we could still see some of that as we move into tomorrow, into the Bighorns, but especially into the hills on your Friday. But meantime, the headline is going to be how much warmer it is thanks to these strong southerly winds. You're going to have to watch your allergies for that as well, but a cold front making its way through to really stir up more thunderstorms after getting to 78 tomorrow. So we're tracking those storms, but winds of change are a-blowing for near record temps. I'll have that in the forecast a little later on. Jack, back to you.
Thank you, Ryan. A 58-year-old woman from Wall is killed in a one-car crash late Tuesday afternoon. The crash occurred near the intersection of Main Street and 5th Avenue in Wall. The South Dakota Highway Patrol said the woman was in a parking lot when her car reversed into a wood fence, then accelerated north over 5th Avenue and crashed into a light pole. The driver was not wearing a seatbelt and died from her injuries. The patrol is investigating to determine the cause of the crash. The woman's name is being withheld until her family can be notified. A rally in downtown Rapid City today aims to raise awareness and support for animal welfare and also calling for greater accountability from the Trump administration. Our Zeta Jones has more.
Dozens of community members in KOTA Territory, many with their dogs, gathered outside City Hall Wednesday afternoon for a peaceful rally in response to Kristi Noem shooting and killing her untrainable hunting dog, Cricket, which she wrote about in her book called No Going Back.
was such an act of needless violence and like performative violence that I think so characterizes this administration. If someone's willing to be cruel to their animal, they're going to be willing to be cruel en masse, and that is what we are seeing.
Organized by Indivisible Rapid City, the Justice for Cricket event gave community members a way to use their disdain towards the situation to support the Humane Society of the Black Hills, collecting donations and pet supplies.
They're not only out here telling their representatives that they're not happy, but they're also doing good things alongside of this. You know, they're raising money for the Humane Society, the Black Hills Humane Society.
The group is not only here in support of cricket, but to shine a light on a variety of issues.
There is immense diversity in South Dakota, and even though our politicians may represent one group disproportionately, we are still here.
One little small act of courage can stimulate a lot more effort and a lot more recognition.
Some folks are here for Social Security. Some people want to talk about cuts, horrible cuts to Medicaid. Some folks want to talk about the deportations.
For more information on protests held by Indivisible Rapid City, go to our website. Reporting Rapid City, I'm Zeta Jones.
It's frustrating buying a ticket to a live event, discovering that you were misled about fees on that ticket. Starting Monday, the Federal Trade Commission's rule on unfair or deceptive fees will go into effect. According to the FTC, the rule would ban deceptive or unfair practices associated with fees for services or goods that misrepresent their total costs. This rule would prevent tactics that are conducted to purposely mislead someone about live event ticketing and short-term lodging industry fees. Businesses will be required to explain what exactly the fees are for and avoid phrasing including service fees, convenience fees, and processing fees. The monument's deputy facility director says unfair or deceptive practices have never been an issue for the venue, said they've always been conscientious of their customer experience.
We've pretty much practiced that all along. We want to make sure that when our ticket buyers are going to our website, themonument.live, that they are getting in a primary ticketing experience, that there's no surprises at the end. So we've always employed that practice and been an all-in ticketing facility.
The FTC says the new rule forwards President Trump's combating unfair practices in the live entertainment market executive order. In an effort to thank correctional officers for all they do for the community, the Pennington County Jail fired up the grill today in celebration of National Correctional Officers Week. The event brought together officers, trainees, and jail staff for a moment of appreciation for the role each person plays in keeping KOTA Territory safe. Most of the time, the correctional officers work behind the scenes, but events like this give them a reason to celebrate with each other for everything they do that goes unnoticed.
It's a very difficult job, so being able to have a little levity, have a little support, break bread with each other is a pretty important thing. Incarceration is not easy on anybody, and definitely not easy for the ones who are going through it. So we are there to provide help, support, and make sure that they can return to our society, our community, better than when they arrived.
National Correctional Officers Week was established in 1984 by President Ronald Reagan. Can South Dakota Mines engineering students match their technical abilities to the arts? We'll find out later on KOTA Territory News. And when we return, that first air travel can be nerve-wracking for anyone and even more daunting for those with special needs. We'll see what's being done to make that a little easier. Real ID requirements are launching today. The Transportation Security Administration says the new demand did not cause any disruptions at Rapid City Regional Airport. Now, the airport is also making the travel experience easier for people with accessibility needs. Our Brian Savage was at the airport today for a tour that was given to groups of people with disabilities.
Wednesday, the Rapid City Regional Airport hosted their first ever Wings of Wonder event, giving people with accessibility needs a preview of the airport travel experience.
We understand that there can be some anxiety when traveling with accessibility needs, and we hope to share some programs that will help alleviate that, really to give them some familiarity with the airport and share some programs that they might not know about.
Groups of students were given an airport tour and guided through different steps of the travel journey. This included checking in for a flight, TSA screening, and the gate area.
Probably 90% of my students have never been on an airplane before. So this is a chance for them to learn that process. I even had a student just ask me, how do you get tickets?
The founder of Wings of Wonder, Afton Ike, first presented the idea to the airport 6 months ago.
I also, struggle with a little bit of anxiety and autism in our family. So it's very passionate about helping people understand that it's not as scary here at the airport. It's almost the most exciting part of the travel experience.
The students were shown some of the programs at the airport that help people with accessibility needs, including TSA Cares and the Hidden Disabilities Sunflower program. Johnson says the airport wants to ensure people with accessibility needs have what they need to travel comfortably.
A few of those features include a Mamava nursing pod for expecting mothers. We have a service animal relief area. We have accessible elevators, bathrooms, family restrooms.
Ike says the airport travel experience can be a scary thought, which could lead people to never want to go through the process again.
We really want you to feel comfortable when you're here at the airport, so you do feel like you can go out and travel and experience new things. There's a whole world out there ready for you.
Ike hopes Wings of Wonder will turn into an annual event. In Rapid City, Brian Savage, KOTA Territory News.
A public visitation for longtime KOTA Territory meteorologist Eric Gardner is set for Wednesday, May 21st from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Kirk Funeral Home. The funeral home is at 10151 East Minnesota Street in Rapid City. Gardner died from cardiac arrest sometime overnight, April 28th. He was 60 years old. A private service will be held at a later date. Meteorologist Ryan Hill is tracking more isolated storms, but then get ready for some potential near-record warmth. The details are next in your accurate first alert forecast.
Now, the First Alert Forecast with meteorologist Ryan Hill.
We're seeing the remnants of some puffy clouds as some thunderstorms developed over the northern hills, a little bit of heavier rain. Otherwise, we are talking about some warmer temperatures throughout most, if not all, of KOTA Territory. Take a look at that. 71 in Sheridan, 64 in Gillette. Same for you in Newcastle and in Wright. I got to tell you, that's a big difference from the 30s and 40s we were seeing at this time yesterday. Meanwhile, 73 in Phillip, Rapid City, 69 at the airport, 67 downtown. Not doing too bad out there. Here are those thunderstorms that we're talking about. A little bit of the best moisture still is to the south of us, Cheyenne, North Platte, along Interstate 80, but a little bit on these easterly winds kind of creeping up against this kind of dying boundary in our area. That's starting off those thunderstorms right there. Thunderstorms which have been very welcome because they're dropping some rain in an area that's definitely needed it. Otherwise, that warm-up that you've been really itching for, other than some rain, is definitely in the offing for Sheridan and Gillette's 41 to 47 tonight, 49 here in Rapid City. We're watching for thunderstorms, and the instability is going to start off rather sparse as we have a slow moving cold frontal boundary moving into the area. A little bit of weak instability, but here's the time where things are the best. We make our way over the Bighorns. I was going to get to the Black Hills in a moment. Bighorns get to it around on Friday afternoon, a little bit on Thursday, so maybe an isolated shower or two. I'll talk about that in the hour-by-hour forecast graphic soon. But we've also got the instability developing right here for at least a decent cell or two. Not really that widespread. Again, not as much moisture, not as much instability. You'd tend to generate kind of a more isolated, weaker setup. But that being said, here we go. Your Thursday, we see some of that activity popping off the Bighorns just right there, just tiny little bit of shower activity. You get probably a 1/10 of an inch out of that. But then we make our way through that front and bam, that triggers up a pretty decent thunderstorm near Custer, and that travels near Hermosa. We'll see if it makes its way through Rapid City or not. But yeah, southern, southwestern South Dakota looking pretty nice. But with these gusty winds gusting on up through our area, we could see those again this weekend. We're watching tree pollens, grass pollens, and weed pollens are going up. So definitely use those indoors wisely, especially for that AC as a ridge of high pressure pops into our area. And after that ridge of high pressure, we're going to be talking we're still talking the potentially record temperatures. We're just knocking on the door of that 91 set in 1940 downtown. But a stout trough of low pressure brings us some pretty decent chances of some rain. definitely nice for those plants to get a drink as we make our way towards Tuesday and your Wednesday. So watching the northern hills in northeast Wyoming for that warm up, a little bit of thunderstorm activity, but there's that 90 before more widespread stuff next week.
All right, I say we go for the record.
Let's go for it.
All right, thank you, Ryan. Well, coming up, a couple of Rapid City pitchers are helping the South Dakota State baseball team have success. Plus, we check in with the Spearfish track and field team as the Spartans are among the best in the region. Vic Quick has all the details next in Dakota Sports.
Good evening, everybody. The Post 22 baseball team picked up a big win last night, knocking off Post 320 16-1. With the victory, the Hardhats improved to a perfect 7-0 on the season. Kelvin Torby's guys are right back on the diamond this evening as they host Gillette. The game is just underway out at Fitzgerald Stadium, and I'll have highlights for you at 9 and 10. The Spearfish track and field team is putting together another strong season. The Spartans have had some nice individual performances that have led to team success. The Spearfish girls finished second at the Center of the Nation meet and third at their home meet, the Queen City Classic. The boys took fourth at the Center of the Nation and landed seventh at the Queen City Classic. Spearfish has the benefit of having an experienced head coach, as Aaron Nida is in his 22nd season as a leader of the Spartans, and Nida is pleased with the way his team is competing.
Some quality kids. Peyton Van Diest in the distance is running really well right now. Has broken a couple school records and made a top 10 in this all-time in the state in the mile time, and so she's really running well. And our distance crew with our 4x8 and the medley relays are pretty strong right now. But we do have some good senior leaders. Hunter Walters is doing a great job of leading the team and being a role model for everyone. And we've got some young guys that are doing pretty well. Thomas Hughes is jumping and running pretty well right now. Is placed high in some meets and is looking really good.
The Central and Stevens baseball teams are set to renew their rivalry this evening. The Raiders have won 5 in a row and check in with an 11-5 record. The Gobblers enter the matchup with a 6-11 mark. First pitch is slated for 7 o'clock out at McKeague Field. The South Dakota State baseball team is getting a nice lift from a couple of Rapid City pitchers. Dylan Ritchie and Jake Goebel are both throwing well for the Jackrabbits. Last Sunday, Ritchie tossed 5 shutout innings, allowing just 3 hits, and route to picking up his first win of the season as SDSU defeated Northern Colorado 10-2. Ritchie has a strong 2.84 ERA in 19 innings. Now the Jackrabbits are now 10-13 in conference play and 14-29 overall. South Dakota State returns to the diamond Friday when it opens up a 3-game series at Omaha. The Summit League softball tournament cranked up in Brookings today. South Dakota won a tight game over Kansas City 8-6. Abby Brown and Delaney White each drove in 3 runs for the Coyotes. McKenna Young picked up the win on the mound. USD advances to take on second-seeded South Dakota State tomorrow at 12:30 our time. And the other first-round game, North Dakota knocked off NDSU 8-0. The Fighting Hawks will play top-seeded Omaha coming up tomorrow. NBA playoffs, Nuggets on the court tonight for Game 2 against the Thunder. Denver won Game 1. They're looking to go up 2-0. Last night, Timberwolves dropped Game 1 to the Warriors. Well, that's going to do it for sports. We'll be right back.
Be sure to tune in to KOTA Territory News at 6 on Fox. We'll tell you how you can still take a flight even without a real ID.
If it's not compliant, they may be diverted to a different line.
Plus, 2 of our finalists in the Rising Star of the West Scholarship Contest get their turn in the spotlight. Those stories and more are at 6 on Fox.
South Dakota Mines hosted an open house today at the Makerspace in Devereux Library. The Mines Makerspace is a lab where students can combine engineering and art. The Makerspace allows for creative activities such as pottery, 3D printing, laser engraving, and more. Community members got a chance to see some of the Makerspace machines in action tonight, and South Dakota Mines Associate Vice President of Student Success Lisa Carlson says she hopes to begin hosting more community outreach events in the Makerspace this summer. Carlson says it has an impact on students.
To allow students to be able to showcase and exercise that creative side while they are in these, high-level engineering or science courses is always going to be beneficial.
Carlson says community members should keep an eye out for upcoming workshops at the Makerspace open to the public in June. You can help the Dakota Care and Share food drive this Mother's Day weekend. Reptile Gardens, moms get in free Saturday and Sunday with a minimum 3 cans per person donation. And Sunday on Mother's Day, you can get into the Mammoth site in Hot Springs for free with a minimum donation of 3 cans of food per person. This year, you could do something special for mom and help your community by helping the Dakota Care and Share food drive this Mother's Day weekend. It sounds like good weather to get outside and do just that this weekend.
Yes, indeed, and we started off pretty well even today. Even a mild evening tonight as we look out the door for tomorrow morning, even taking a look at some 50s warming up to 60s real quickly after that sun rises after 6. Well, before 6 actually. Take a look at those 70s though. Absolutely scintillating but breezy as we make our way into some thunderstorm chances as well. Sheridan getting a little bit of those tomorrow evening, but yet the better chance is in the hills tomorrow. Then we're looking at 90 on Mother's Day. Hot.
Very exciting. That'll do it for us. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you tonight at 10.
Thanks for watching KOTA Territory News, your local news and weather authority.